All right, we're going to go ahead and start. We are a few minutes late. We appreciate you all being here. So we do have our technical ducks in a row today. We've got our recording moving forward and our YouTube channel up and running. So we appreciate the fact that we're able to live stream today. We want to welcome all who are participating with us, either here in the room or on our YouTube channel, and welcome you to our Board of County Commissioners meeting. Today is 10 a.m. today, the 25th of August of 2015. Man, I got to tell you, my kids started school this morning, and they're cute. That's all there is to it. They're just dang cute, and it's awful fun to see them out and excited about it as well. Some of the older ones were not quite as excited as some of the younger ones, but that's understandable. Good time of year, great time of year, and we also want to mention a big thanks to all out there who can hear us that participated yesterday in our Weber County Commissioners Cup, our annual charity golf tournament that we've been holding every year for the last several years. It has been a wonderful experience. We've gotten to the point now where we've raised nearly $200,000 over the years for local charities that have just been so needed, and this particular year we had a couple of charities that we were very, very proud to support. The Women's Retreat House and Living Hannah's Hope were the two charities that we chose this year. We just can't express our appreciation enough for those great individuals who run those charities and who help to deliver these services, and we just play a small part in being able to support them. In fact, as I posted a little blurb on it on Facebook last night, I had a few folks pop back up and say, "You don't even golf." I'm like, "You're right. I don't golf." And that's not the purpose of what we're doing. It's just a means to the end. And I know that's heresy to some who think golfing is very important. But to me, I'm just grateful that there's an opportunity, a game out there, a activity that gives us a chance to get together for a good cause, and many of you participated and helped in that good cause, and so I want to thank you all for that good cause. I said this on the Facebook post, I'll say it again. The reality is we made a difference yesterday in some lives, and it felt really good to be a part in making that difference. So we appreciate all of you very, very much. Thank you so much. Just by way of announcement, Commissioner Bell is upstairs in a meeting that is running over, and so he will join us if by chance he gets done with that meeting. It looked like it was going to run quite long, and so there's a possibility that he will be here, but more likely that we're on our own today. Commissioner Ebert, you think we can handle it?
Second.
Okay, good. I'm pretty sure. I think that's a yes. All right. We'll begin with our invocation, which in this particular case, we didn't have anybody on the list today, and we obviously give people any opportunity they would like, but also like to do different things. And today we're actually just going to bow our head for a moment of silence. We'll do that, after which our Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Mr. Sean Wilkinson. Thought of the day will be offered by Commissioner Ebert. If you'll bow your head with me for a moment of silence. Thank you. Sometimes my moments need to be longer than others. I apologize. Sean, thank you.
Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we always have the opportunity to read daily messages from Mr. Bob Hunter. So this is from one of that he sent me that I thought was really appropriate for the direction we're going, the decisions that we're making. It's by J.K. Rowling. Did I say that? I always want to say Rowling. It says, "It is impossible to live without failing at something, unless you live so cautiously that you might as well not have lived at all, in which case you fail by default." And we have a lot of things going on in the county, and we've made some decisions over the last 5 or 6 months that I believe have taken the county in a different direction. And I think we're trying to be bold as we move forward, whether it's economic development or organizationally or mission. We were really pushing and going in a direction of customer service and trying to provide services to the community as a whole. And so it's easy at times to be cautious. It's easy at times not to be bold. But the fruits of your labor is based upon your labor. And as we move forward, Commissioner, I hope that we continue to evaluate, we continue to make decisions that are based upon what is the right thing to do, what's in the best interest of the citizens of this community, and not in the best interests of individuals or special interests. And I think that we understand that, and we work diligently in making those types of decisions that will meet the mission that is behind us on the wall and meets the needs of this community. So I thought that was a very appropriate thought for the day.
I appreciate that. It definitely is easy to sit back because we might be afraid that we might fail. And I appreciate your resolve, Commissioner, and I share that with you that, we know we're probably going to fail a time or two, and we'll just keep on trying, and we won't fail for lack of trying. Let's appreciate that comment and your thought. All right, we'll move to our consent items. Item number 1 is the request for approval of purchase orders in the amount of $632,636.46. Request for approval of warrants number 324140 through 324391 in the amount of $1,941,966.35. Request for approval of minutes for the meeting held on August 18th of 2015. And request for approval of new business licenses. Is there any question or comment on the consent items? Commissioner Ebert, if not, we'll go to Mr. Taylor to give us a brief rundown on those items, the checks and the warrants.
Thank you, Commissioner. The purchase orders, the largest one, 89% of that went, $564,000 went to the library for book shelving. Everything else was less than or equal to 3% spread across all vendors and departments. The warrants, largest single amount of that, 37% or $726,000 went to Select Health for premiums that were spread across all departments. The next largest one was only 6% or $111,000 to Ogden Fire and Ambulance, and everything else was about 3% or less for both vendors and departments.
Okay. With that introduction, Commissioner, any other questions or comments?
Just a statement for the library. I've spent some time as we prepared moving forward, both in the construction and in the renovation. But specifically to that Roy Branch, the shelving that is used in the libraries is a little more expensive than I initially thought. And so it is something that's needed. It protects the books. It makes them easy to move and other things. Then Linda has spent a tremendous amount of time trying to find the very best prices. And so, it's interesting to me when we look at these large numbers, and I've said this before, they usually, when we review them, go down to one or two specific items, such as, select the healthcare and these shelves. So just wanted you to know that we had looked at different options in the shelving for the library. Was reviewed, but there's nothing else we can do. So we can't put them on bookends or on the floor. We can't stack them in the corner.
Yeah.
So
Good point. Good point. Okay. Sounds good. If there's no other questions or comments, Commissioner, would you like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we adopt the consent items as read.
And I'll second that motion. Is there discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It passes. By way of information, item number 7 on our agenda will not be heard today. We will hold that until next week. So we'll scratch item number 7. We'll start back at the top with item number 1 in our action items. And Jared, appreciate you coming today and being here to present these items. The first is a request for approval of a contract with PEC for construction management on the Valley Lake Estates storm drain project.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning, Jared.
This is a project about 2 years in the making, so we're very excited to get this started. We're planning on getting it finished before the snow hits up there in Valley Lake Estates. Some neighbors and different staff have referred to this area as the ice sheet sometimes because that intersection collects a lot of ice when there's a lot of water in the wintertime. So this group will be doing the construction management work for that project.
We do have that contract in front of us. Looks appropriate. Commissioner, any questions, comments for Jared?
Not at this time.
328.
328.
I'll make a motion that we approve contract 328 by and between PEC for the construction management on the Valley Lake Estate Storm Drain Project and Weber County.
I'll second that. Is there discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Jared. The next two are you as well. Approval of the right-of-way contract for 12th Street for Barbara Higgs, service area number 5, which is the West Warren Park. And looks like that's it on 12th Street. On item number 3, approval of right-of-way contracts on 3500 West for Oscar Bugarin, parcel number 45. Any additional, I mean, these are the ones that we see every week. We're seeing these come through, and just wonder if there's anything else we need to know or anything of note on these two particular items, Jared, that's new.
No, not of note in particular. Just as mentioned last week, we're approximately 95% complete on 3500 West and about 80% complete on 12th Street. So these will continue to get less and less parcels as we move along, and hopefully we can get this wrapped up as soon as we can.
Great. So that would be contract number 329 and 330, right? Fatima, for those two? We can do those two in one motion, can't we, Dave? Okay, we'll do those in one motion. Contracts number 329 and 330.
I'll make a motion to approve contract 321. 321.
Nine.
Right, 329. You could say it again if you want.
Sorry, real quick, there's 3 total. So it'll be 329, 330, 331.
Now I gotta start all over again?
That's good since we haven't got it right yet.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we approve contracts 329, 330, and 331 as previously stated.
I'll second that motion. Approval for these contracts, 329, 330, and 331. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It passes. Thank you, Jared.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Mr. Harvey, if you'll come on up. Appreciate you coming today. This item is a request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and Trevor Ellis to hold the Great Basin Buckaroo Days at the Golden Spike Event Center on September 10th through the 12th of 2015.
Yes, Commissioner, thank you very much.
See, a nice shirt, by the way.
Thank you. This is the second time Mr. Ellis has held the Buckaroo Days. He had success enough with his inaugural year to come back and do it again, so we're grateful for that returning business. We understand it's a great thing, and it's actually a compliment when people come back, and it also shows that they've done a great job in their planning, but also it's a nice partnership for us. And so this is a nice piece of business that'll take place inside the Golden Spike Arena and the outdoor stadium for that 10th through the 12th of September, and we're looking for approval of this contract today. I would welcome any questions if you have them.
I don't have any questions. You, Commissioner?
Nope, I'm just happy that we're
Still in that facility?
having the facility used, so. I'll make a motion that we approve contract 332 by and between Weber County and Trevor Ellis to hold the Great Basin Buckaroo Days at the Golden Spike Event Center on September 10th through the 12th, 2015.
And I'll second that motion. It's contract number 332. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It passes. Item number 5, request for approval of a contract by and between the Golden Spike Gem and Mineral Society and Weaver County to hold the Gemstone Junction at the Golden Spike Event Center on April 7th through 10th. Now, that one's a ways out, but we like getting it booked.
Yep. This is a nice show that's come to us from downtown, but this particular show is it's a great show. It involves a lot of the elementary schools from the surrounding area and throughout the county, as it fills a social studies credit for them. So there are thousands of 5th graders that attend this show and come during the week, and then it's open to the public on those days, but also the weekend. They get puppeteers, and I can only tell you some of the neatest puppeteers I've ever seen. One fella comes over from Colorado, and he actually he's the legs that move the dinosaur, but the dinosaur would stretch from at least from here to that to your back wall, or 20 feet long, and he can bend over and open the mouth, and kind of the kids just love it because it looks like just this big rack of dinosaur bones coming to and other things. And then they get to see all the rocks, and when they cut them in half and how they tumble things. It's really a fascinating show, and it provides a different use for our facility. You mentioned keeping things booked. I want to make sure, especially because this is being broadcast, that people know us for the fair, the Weber County Fair, and although that draws a lot of people, that represents one event. It's one event for 4 days. We actually have between 200 and 250 different events a year out at our facility. As soon as the fair ended this year, we had 4 more events in the next week. So it just didn't stop there. We just keep going and going. And this is one, obviously, that'll take place in April. And some events are not open to the public. They're private functions, but we stay very busy out there. So this is an event that's a normal contract. Go ahead.
I'm just curious, how many people does that represent?
You know, we've tracked that down anywhere between, and like, for instance, this show, they keep numbers for tickets, but on any given year, between 225,000 and 350,000, not including the people who come to the softball games and the soccer games and the basketball games that are out there 6 days a week. And that's just that attend the fairgrounds for the
We
different
could have
functions.
500,000 people driving under
easy.
that crossbar anytime, any
Easy.
given year. That's amazing. Absolutely.
Well, and I'd just like to say that this commission meeting today is being sponsored by the Golden Spike Event Center. Please attend the Golden Spike event.
Why, that's a great radio
Broadcast
voice you've
far
got there,
and wide.
Commissioner. Thank you very much.
No, it's great. I mean, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. It truly is a very unique, one-of-a-kind facility that we are very proud to have in our arsenal of reasons to bring, why people might come to Weber County, and it's just a great thing. It's a great thing because it brings people in, but it's also a great thing because it's a facility that our community truly uses right here in our own community. It's our facility. It's one where I hope people feel welcome and can just show up and be a part of their community. It's a great gathering place.
Thank you. You bring a good point. Those numbers that we were just talking about reflect actually event business. And as I said, it doesn't include the recreation things that take place out there, but it also doesn't include the private use. We go out there today and there are people that are running horses on the racetrack or using the cross-country course. Or there are a lot of people that come out and use it for hourly riding to use through the winter months, which will be coming up soon. So the buildings are in use, but they just may not be rented for a specific function, but they are rented for private type things. And those numbers, again, do not include all the private use. And so, yeah, we're used all the time. Thank you.
And if I can add really quickly, it's one of the things that we can have all the facilities we want, but it's the staff who really draws people. So we appreciate your staff and we appreciate your willingness to serve and the attitude that you have, because I think that we treat people really well and they come back for a reason. That's why we have renewal contracts every single year. So
Thank you. I'll pass that on to the staff. Thank you.
I'll make a motion that we approve contract 333 by and between Weaver County and the Golden Spike Gem and Mineral Society to hold a Gemstone Junction at the Golden Spike Event Center on April 7th to the 10th, 2016.
Okay, and I'll second the motion. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It's official, it passes. And item number 6 is the request for approval of the contract by and between Weaver County and the Ogden Eccles Conference Center to hold the TCG Command Performance Rodeo at the Golden Spike Center on September 15th and 16th. How's this all coming together? Is this a first time?
Well, it is, I know the TCG's downtown, but
Right.
I'll also point out that this contract was initiated in June originally.
Uh-huh.
But this, the TCG is a huge economic impact for our community, and they needed a place to go to have some entertainment. So, through my staff is contracted through some professional rodeo contractors as well, and the TCG has had a part in that, and they're going to have their own command performance out there, having a rodeo out there, as well as some other functions, because we can accommodate all the visitors in one place, and so makes it a really nice resource for us.
So I think that'll be really neat to have all those foreign dignitaries show up and be able to see a rodeo. That's a culture to
A real
us
Western
that-
rodeo.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great.
It's not a Western rodeo? A Western? I can't do my German
trying to
accent
do
like you
German.
can. Give me
That
a
was
German
really
again.
poor, actually.
You told me you were going to give me lessons on German, and I still can't do it.
What was the word?
Western rodeo.
What is Westen?
West is Western.
That really was poor.
Oh, no.
One of the things that they had talked to me about the rodeo is at the beginning of the rodeo, they're going to write in with all of the flags representing all the different countries around the world that are participating. And I thought that was pretty neat. I think that'll be exciting.
It's
for-
going to be
those little
really a
touches
neat
that you
thing.
do. So
And this particular contractor, it's not, to coin a pun to that, it's not his first rodeo. He's done rodeos all over the western United States. He's a
The
great
Western.
contractor.
the Western.
Yeah. And
Now-
it'll be great. It'll be a good experience for them.
If you need some commissioners to open that like we did the fair on our horses, that would be fine. But just understand, Commissioner Ebert will be holding onto the saddle horn with both hands.
Backwards. I'm a trick rider.
I was going to say, we could always use a place for some trick riding.
It started us off a little closer, so it doesn't take us 45 minutes to get there. So, enough. I'll make a motion that we approve contract 334 and by and between Weber County and the Ogden Eccles Conference Center to hold the TCG Command Performance Rodeo at the Golden Spike Event Center on September 15th and 16th, 2015.
And I'll second that. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Thank
Any
you,
opposed?
Commissioners.
We appreciate it. Thank you, Jim. Motion passes. Thanks for being here. As stated before, we'll skip item number 7 and move to item G, our public hearing. We need a motion to adjourn the public meeting and convene the public hearing.
So moved.
And I'll second that motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We are in our public hearing. Item number 2 is the public hearing to consider and take action on a proposal to amend the following sections of the Weber County Land Use Code, definitions 101-1 through 7, land use permit, building permit, and certificate of occupancy, conditional uses, and supplementary and qualifying regulations to update and clarify provisions related to conditional use, permitting, and procedures. And today we have Mr. Ewert presenting. How are you, Mr. Ewert? morning.
Good morning. Happy to be here. I don't get here enough, I think. One of the reasons is the amount of work that this takes. We started this project in November of last year. Started talking to the Ogden Valley Planning Commission about it and vetting different ideas. This has been a coordinated effort between the Ogden Valley Planning Commission and the Western Weber Planning Commission in separate work sessions. We've worked with both of them to come to terms on what our conditional use permit chapter should look like. The reason why we're here is because our current conditional use permit chapter doesn't comply with state code, and we're looking to bring that into compliance. The primary issue with it is it supposes that all conditional use permits shall be denied unless they meet certain standards. State code says all conditional use permits shall be approved provided they meet certain state standards. So it kind of shifts that burden of responsibility there. The updated code accommodates for that, takes a lot of the language from the state code, and then helps us supplement that a little bit more about how our process is going to work, how our procedures will be put together. It specifies a lot of the procedural due process that an applicant is due. Kind of in the same vein that the Commission is looking to provide better customer service, we want to make sure that our applicants know what is expected of them and that they know what is expected of us in the review of their project. Get them through the process a little more simply, identify expectations up front, and not, hopefully, not have a lot of surprises. The other thing that we do, our current conditional use chapter has very vague and unsubstantiated standards. There isn't a lot that we can hang our hats on when it comes to approving conditional uses. A conditional use permit, they're generally found in land use tables because we want to enable a whole bunch of different kinds of uses. For example, in a residential neighborhood, the obvious use in a residential neighborhood is a residence, and so you allow that by permitted use. But maybe a not so obvious use could be perhaps a small business or something that would otherwise be compatible with the residential neighborhood, but because we can't see the site yet, there's not a specific proposal, because when we're writing the law, we don't exactly know and we can't anticipate what those effects may be of that particular kind of use. We want to make sure that we've got some standards and thresholds written that are very general, not so specific that we're tied to something, but at least specific enough that we can be objective in our approval process and allow additional uses more than just what might otherwise be permitted in that zone. So in zones, you've got permitted uses, and then you have the conditional uses, and the conditional uses would be subject to the additional standards that are here. We had 2 standards in our old code, which again were pretty vague. Now we have a list of standards that'll help us review these projects. Any questions? That's really it. If you want to read through, hit some specifics, we can hit the we can get the Elmo up and look at it on the monitor. If you've got concerns about specifics in the code, it's a lot to get through.
Yeah, I don't think we need to read through it. I've read through it already, as I imagine you have, but I think there may be some specific questions. Commissioner, would you like to ask those now, or would you like to move and let him explain item number 3 as well? We'll take public comment on both and ask questions. Is that okay?
Correct.
Do you want to do that, Mr. Ewert? Go through item number 3 as well.
I appreciate it.
I guess I should read that one. Public hearing to consider and take action on the proposal to amend the following section of the Weaver County Land Use Code: home occupation, short-term vendors, temporary outdoor sales, farmers markets, provide instructional activities and in-yard and accessory buildings to update and clarify provisions related to home occupation permitting and procedures.
So it's a long title. The only thing that we're actually touching with that long list is the home occupation procedures. But it's the title of the chapter, so it was all thrown in there. This application it was submitted by a resident of Western Weaver County. The resident has a large accessory building on their property that's got a basketball court, it's got a batting cage in there, and they would like the opportunity to earn just a little bit of supplemental income and run a business there that would involve teaching basketball in that building. Under our current code, home occupations are only permitted if they're 100% enclosed inside of the residential building on the property. As we started brainstorming this with the applicant, we kind of figured there may be some opportunity, especially when it comes to the ability to provide entrepreneurial opportunities for future business owners to start small at their home, and then if they get big enough, then they can cross a threshold and go find a commercial facility. In evaluating the code, the biggest issue that we saw and the biggest policy shift from what we're currently doing is this code, as it's written, would allow instructional activities outdoors and in accessory buildings where the current code just doesn't. So we're breaking the threshold of that private residence, and we're getting outside. And even though it's in a private building, or maybe even a private background, a little bit more in the public domain because of noise and sounds and sights and stuff like that. So what we wanted to do is we hit on this to help mitigate those issues and provide for home occupations that could fit in well with a residential neighborhood is a few extra standards. And we threw in a standard there about truck traffic. We threw in a standard there about lighting. And we threw in a standard there about noise and decibels. And if it goes over a certain threshold of lumens or candle feet, if it goes over a certain threshold of noise, then they would be considered in violation, and we would have to go out there and get them to tone it down a little bit. We don't want commercial activities in a residential zone, but we also want to stimulate commercial opportunities to start small and then grow from there. So that's what this ordinance does, gets them out of the house for certain instructional activities, not for any kind of business activity.
Well, I not to skip past the other one, but I am a little familiar with this circumstance in that I know the individual who built the home in the first place, and had all kinds of activities there as part of his private residence that it was, of course, all allowed.
Okay.
And he had all kinds, like I said, all kinds of activities. When he sold the home, the individuals who bought the home, a young couple with some kids, and the budget was quite different than the guy who sold it in the first place. And I think their thought was kind of like, well, it won't really change the use much. The same type of traffic and people will be here, but can I charge $20 for the basketball team to practice? And under the statute at the time, that's not possible. And yet, so I look around, I look at some of the circumstances around us, and for instance, the big gym that opened on 1900 West a few years ago. Very expensive, built as a commercial gym because there is a need for gym space. I mean, you look around, I don't know if any of you have kids that play basketball, but I do, and it's hard to find a place to practice. It's hard to find a place to get kids in and spend some gym time. And yet, that large commercial operation struggled, for a lot of ways, I think mainly because of the size and scope. And so it seems like there's a need for this type of home occupation change, and it seems like it makes sense, to me, in the way that you've written this. I know that you've been working on this a long time, like the first
half a
one,
year, yeah.
Charlie. And so it feels like you've tried very hard to address the needs and the concerns of the residential neighborhood and not turn this into a commercial zone. And by the same token, allowing individuals to use a facility and not feel like they're in conflict with the statute if they wanted to do certain types of enhanced revenue through that type of thing that I described. So I like the way you've come up with this. It feels like an appropriate balance for the residential area. Commissioner, this particular area this particular case is on about 3500 West, if I remember right. And,
Right.
I don't know, a little ways north of 12th Street.
So my only concern is just enforcement. As we have more individuals that will apply for some type of light commercial or those type of activities in residential, we will need to stay on top of enforcing lumen requirements or noise requirements and things like that. And so that's the only concern that I have, is we want to make sure that as individuals get these types of businesses, that it does not become something that overwhelms us in our ability to follow through on making sure that they're living up to what the requirements are. So that's the only concern I have. I believe in the entrepreneurial concept, and that it starts small and grows from there. And so I'm behind this 100%. That is my only concern at times, is that we just need to make sure that we stay on top of that, because we get calls on special permitting that has slowly grown
Right.
larger and larger and larger, and now becomes somewhat of an issue within the neighborhood, and neighbors don't like to call on each other. They want to keep those relationships. So
Enforcement is a struggle, and it could be difficult here. We wanted to start small, and we wanted to limit the types and amounts of property that could be that could use this, just to evaluate how it does affect the neighborhood. When someone comes in and applies for a permit, we're not going to really know how bright their lights are, and we're not going to really know how noisy it's going to be until it's established, and those are tough. So we'll work with enforcement, monitor it pretty closely. If we have to come back to this and make some tweaks later, we'll certainly do so.
And I would fully expect that we would have to do that type of thing as we go along. We have, we definitely want to maintain the integrity of our zoning, right? And the fact that we need commercial zones to be commercial zones, right? And so we're always, but yet by the same token, we realize that we are in a different world nowadays than we used to be. And people are looking for opportunities, rightfully so, in a lot of ways, to travel less and work from home. And so we're looking.
And the reality of it is, in nowadays, with the way that business is ran, you do not have to have a large warehouse to run a business.
Okay.
And so you can run a lot of business from home, and we need to be very responsive to those types of businesses as people come up with ideas or opportunities. So I agree. It's a wonderful idea, and I think that it is something that we, I think, was little looking into the future when you started on it a year ago. So I commend you on it. The only other thing I just want to touch on really quickly is we just want to make sure that we have a process to be very responsive to complaints, that we can get on top of them really quickly. Because again, complaints outside into your commercial zones will come usually from users, clients, customers. These individuals that will complain in these residential, that's their home, that's their castle. We need to make sure that we're very responsive to any type of complaints we have. But other than those two very small things, very supportive of this, and I appreciate the work you put into it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Any other questions, Commissioner, on the first issue? I kind of skipped past that because we did them together, and then I just want to make sure you didn't have other.
Again, this falls within principle-based of how government works. I agree fully on the concept of that government is restricted through the Constitution and through other tenets of what we believe in. The only concern I have is when we shift that burden, then we have to be very detailed on what we do not allow.
Right.
Because we always find little cracks in there, and then once there's a crack in there, I mean, somebody says, well, I can do this, and you're like, no, you can't. And they say, well, show me the statute or the ordinance, and you're like, well, it's right. We don't have anything, so we have to allow that. So that's my only concern, and I completely understand that. But I agree that burden should be placed back on us when we limit things. We just need to be very detailed to make sure that we've covered all those bases and we haven't missed something. So that was my only comment. I really don't have a question.
Okay, thank you. All right, Charlie, we appreciate your presentation. You do great work for us. We're grateful that you have studied these so in depth and updated us individually as we've gone along with where you're at in the progress, and feels like we're on the right path here.
You're welcome.
This is a public hearing, and so this would be the time for anyone who would like to comment on either of these two items to come to the microphone and share your comments. Tell us where we're hitting this right or wrong either way, and share your opinion on either of these two items. Give it a little bit longer just because it is a public hearing. Jan, come on up. Thank you. I was wondering. Wanted to make sure you had an opportunity.
My name's Jan Fulmer, 3741 Red Hawk Circle in Eden, Utah. Just one quick question that came across my mind. If the home is part of a homeowners association that has covenants, and the covenants restrict any type of business in the home or an outer building, do the covenants take precedence?
It's a good question, Charlie. You got an answer for that?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jan. Appreciate that question.
and hopefully legal can help me if I step off base on this one. But the covenants of a homeowners association, the county's not usually involved in the enforcement of that. And so when you've got a homeowners association, that's a private contract between the HOA, between all the neighbors and that individual. Whatever regulations are there are still applicable regardless of what the county's laws are. And so they're to be held to the responsibility of the county's laws, and they're also to be held responsible for the contracts that they've entered into. So HOA rules would still govern.
Excellent, thank you.
But just as a follow-up to that, the HOA has to enforce their own requirements.
Right, the county doesn't do
Yeah,
that.
so the county won't do that. So if something that is illegal now becomes legal, they can legally do it. If they start moving forward, then the HOA will then have to take actions. But just because we say it's legal doesn't mean that you can no longer have your own requirements. So we just can't enforce them. They probably already explained that, but that just occurred to me. It's a little bubble appeared above my head.
Little bubble.
Well, I'm okay with that.
Okay, any other questions or any other comments in this public hearing? Okay. Seeing none then, we will move to item number 4, which is that I need a motion, Commissioner, to adjourn the public hearing and reconvene the public meeting.
So moved.
And I'll second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are back in our public meeting, and now we are to action on the public hearing. And we can take action in any way. We can approve these 2 adjustments, land use code definition changes, or we can not approve. We can vote to not approve them, or we can not take action. That's taking action in and of itself. So, Commissioner, any action you'd like to take?
Yes, Fatima.
13 and 14.
And are these resolutions or
Ordinance.
ordinances? Are we amending the ordinance or creating a new one? Amending. I'll make a motion that we approve or adopt Ordinance 13, amending the following sections of Weber County land use definitions: 101, 1 to 7, land use permit, building permit, and certificate of occupancy, that's 102-4, conditional use 108-4, and supplementary and qualifying regulations 108-7 to update and clarify provisions related to the conditional use permitting and procedures. I hope I said that right.
And I'll second that motion, and let's take these separately since they're ordinances, and we'll have roll call votes. So roll call vote on this, Fatima.
Commissioner Ebert?
Aye.
Chair Gibson?
Aye. It passes, thank you. And ordinance number 14, Commissioner?
I'll make a motion that we adopt Ordinance 14,
You don't need to read the whole thing.
which is
I did
a
once.
proposal to amend the following sections as stated.
Okay, perfect. And I'll second that motion. Roll call vote.
Commissioner Ebert?
Aye.
Chair Gibson?
Aye. The motion passes. Thank you. We are back now to item number 8 on our on our regular agenda, on our main agenda, which is the assignment of the Pledge of Allegiance and the thought of the day for Tuesday, September 1st, 2015. As far as the thought of the day, I believe that would be Commissioner Gibson. And the Pledge of Allegiance, we'll ask Dave. Will you take that one today? Dave Wilson will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. It's always nice when we look around and see somebody that we know is going to be here. Thanks, Dave. Unless he goes fishing and doesn't take me and makes me jealous. All right. To our final item on the agenda, public comment. Is there any from the public who would like to comment today? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move to our final item.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
And I'll second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, we're adjourned. Thank you all for being here. We'll see you next week. Same time, same place.